Before starting a talk, he would ask his audience the same question I just asked you: how is everyone doing? And if people, there were very little response or people didn't reply, he would not start. And the response he was expecting was awake and ready. Because these truths, these inspirations we'll be sharing, wisdom, life in general, to be able to absorb anything, we need to have dynamic energy. So let's start on that note. I'll ask that question again, and I hope you surprise me. So how is everyone feeling this morning?
Awake and ready.
Okay, good. And if you can also smile, that adds a nice touch. Okay, so we have a very interesting topic this morning, and I'd like to welcome Jaya ji, Sadhana ji. We have Dr. Amar here, who's joined us from Pune, and it's a joy should be sharing with all of you. And our topic this morning and this weekend is how to be happy at will, but also tied into that is how to be happy all the time. Because like we were discussing yesterday, isn't that the goal of life? We want to be happy every moment. We want to be happy always. We want to explore, is that even possible? Is that realistic in this life? We are living this life, is that possible? So we'll go into that. But before I begin, I want to share a joke. And this is how the joke goes, that there was this lady in a supermarket one day, and she walks into the supermarket, Reliance Fresh or something you can imagine, and all of a sudden, she sees this grandfather and her very poorly behaved 3-year-old grandson. And the first thing she hears is, this kid screaming, and this kid is saying, let's go home, I want to go home. And, the grandfather, seeing this, he says, okay Rajesh, calm down, it's all going to be okay, just 5 more minutes. And the woman sees this, and then a few minutes, again she sees that they are in the cookie aisle where all the cookies and the sweets are kept, and again she hears this scream, I want a cookie, that pink cookie, I want it, give it to me. And again she hears the grandfather saying, take it easy Rajesh, it's all okay, don't be upset pal, just 5 more minutes, we'll be out of here. And by this time she's very amazed. And just a few minutes later, just at the checkout counter as they were about to go out, again, I think the kid saw some chocolates, and he started screaming, I want some chocolates, those chocolates, give me those chocolates. And again the grandfather said, Rajesh, it's all okay, just relax, be calm, it's all fine, just a few more minutes. And by this time this lady was just like baffled, and so she walks up to this gentleman, to the grandfather, and she's like, sir, you're amazing. It's amazing how no matter how loud the kid got, you just maintained your composure. And she said, Rajesh is so lucky to have you as a grandfather. And he smiled and he said, thank you. He said, but actually I am Rajesh, that fellow is Arun. What was he doing? He was calming himself down. And this is something we were jokingly talking about yesterday. When life is, just tossing you up and down, what do you do? How do you keep your poise? How do you keep your calm? And this was just a joke, but we'll go into more of how you really do that when life does that to you. And I want to start with another story now, on a more serious note. And this is about a musk deer. I don't know if you've heard that they say in the Himalayas, high in the hills, in the mountains, there is a musk deer that lives. And they say that the musk deer secretes a fragrance of musk from its pouch. But the interesting thing is that the musk deer does not know where the fragrance is coming from. And they say that to a degree that it runs wild through valleys, up mountains, just trying to find the source of that fragrance, that sweet fragrance. And they also say that sometimes in sheer desperation, just driven mad by this desire to find that sweetness, the musk deer sometimes even jumps off a cliff, and dies basically. And I was thinking, isn't that what we are all trying to do in life? That we say, the topic this morning is happiness is within. And we hear that very often. Oh, happiness is inside you. It's all inside. It's within. But then, on the other hand, right since we are born, as we are children, we are kind of driven in the complete opposite direction. Small child, a baby actually, With his first cry, he enters the world and he has to literally struggle for everything he does, for his food, for his milk, for his nutrition. He starts growing up and, he's throwing tantrums now, and what do its parents do? They give him toys, or give her toys. And what is also in that expression, of course, it's a play, but even that expression of giving him a toy to kind of appease him, to quiet him down, is something external, And I think in that subtle way, the child's understanding starts to form that something outside of myself is going to give me happiness, And the child grows up and, the old toys become meaningless to him. He stops playing with the dolls and the G.I. Joes, if you want it to be, and he replaces it with other toys now. The toys come in all shapes and sizes. And isn't that the story of all of our lives? That as we grow as children, we grow up as adults, we start off in life with that, exuberance, with that enthusiasm, with that joy of having that joy in life. But as we grow older, perhaps, something shifts, And maybe we come to a point where we realize, those toys, they're okay, but, they're not really, I'm not feeling the joy I used to feel. And the Indian scriptures say, actually all great religions say, that on the highest level, the highest octave of happiness, they say is a state of being called Satchitanand, which they say is bliss. And they say it is a state which all of us aspire towards, and we may not know it. But the interesting thing is that, like I said, through all our seeking, we are seeking, as children we are seeking, we grow up, we are seeking outside ourselves. And that in itself is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing actually, the seeking on our end. But what are we seeking for? We are seeking for happiness. And as I said, they say there is ultimately a state which is the highest octave of happiness, which is bliss. And they describe that bliss, first of all, they say it is beyond imagination of comprehension. You cannot even comprehend. It's so great, it's so fulfilling that we cannot even with our limited minds comprehend what that bliss is. But they kind of give some adjectives to those bliss. Swami Shankaracharya did, and other saints have done that. But I won't tell you that right now, because what I want is for all of us, and you'll see, by the time we are done in the next 5 minutes, you would have given me the answer of the qualities of that bliss. And so what I'd like all of us to do now is to just sit up straight for a moment, and let's close our eyes. And now, for the next few minutes, imagine yourself to be very happy. Just imagine, even if you don't feel it. But imagine yourself to be very, very happy. Or think back to a time in your life when you were very happy, truly happy. It could be some experience, whatever it might be. And now, after having recollected that happiness, not the particular incident or the experience so much, but the feeling of that happiness, the joy you felt perhaps when you were very small, expand that now. Try to feel what is the quality of that joy that you'd like, of that happiness. How would you like that happiness if it were to last forever? How would you want it to be? Okay, you can open your eyes now. So I'm needing some adjectives. We talk about happiness, but what kind of happiness are we seeking? And the answers are very simple. So if you're going way off the tangent, I'll bring you back. But some adjectives that we want happiness. How do we want that happiness to be? Anyone?
Expansive.
Expansive, okay.
Lasting.
Very good. Do we want it to be just for 5 minutes? Or do we want it to be forever? Agreed?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put that down. So we want it to be permanent. What is the opposite of permanent? Temporary. Okay, what else? Okay, now it's lasting forever, that happiness.
You wouldn't want it to become boring.
No.
So you'd want it to be...
If it's not boring, what is it?
Exciting. Exciting.
Exciting, maybe, but something better. Excitement can be very superficial. It can be up and down, up and down. But what do you want it to be?
Content?
Joyful.
Fresh,
Searching.
new?
Searching for happiness.
Yeah, but how would you like that to be? If you have that happiness and in 3 days it becomes boring, you don't want that happiness. So don't we want it to be ever new? Ever new. Not repetitive. Ever new. Okay? Okay, this is working.
I helped him.
And there is one more quality that we want for that happiness that we are looking for. This might be a harder one.
Changing our perception towards the thing or any incident, how we look at, how our perception should be.
Okay, you can, yeah, that is the essence of it. How do you say it better? Now that happiness, think, we were just visualizing it, but it went away, right?
Live in happiness always.
Yeah, something more.
You said it shouldn't be external, so it should be internal.
Okay.
So that means we should be happy inside.
Yeah. So does that mean that it's conditional or unconditional?
Unconditional.
Right? So it's not conditioned by anything outside of ourselves. We want it to be just unconditional. Okay, so I'll put that down. Okay. So this is a very good start because now we know what we want. We want happiness, but we want happiness that is permanent. It's not fleeting, doesn't leave us. We want happiness which is ever new. It doesn't get boring, doesn't get repetitive. And we want a state of happiness which is unconditional, that doesn't change. When something outside of ourselves changes, does not change with that. Now, having said that, I want to share how, and this is good, this is important, as you will see, what are the stages we go through in life, when we are trying to find happiness, something so subtle as happiness. There is a process that we have to go through, and it can be broken into 3 steps. The first being that we could be, it's like, imagine a piece of gold, and you have a mountain, let's say this hill right here, and you take that piece of gold and you put it under the mountain and you bury it. Now can we say because you can't see the gold, it's gone? No, it's still there, right? Under that mountain. But our first challenge in life, when we start to find the gold, when we're trying to find this happiness, is that often, very often, all of us are looking for that gold under the wrong mountain. Which is some things which we'll be sharing, which I'll be sharing first here, looking for happiness in the wrong places, And if you don't find the happiness in those places, can you blame the gold? No, we just haven't found the right mountain to dig under. So that is number 1. Secondly, when you've now, let's say, identified, okay, the mountain is correct, I found it, this is the mountain. But now you're a little distance away from that mountain. Secondly, there are some things, you can call them blockages, you can call them things that prevent you now from walking towards that mountain. In fact, these could be things which are taking you away from the mountain. Maybe kind of suggesting again, okay, go back towards that earlier mountain you were looking under. So again, some blockages. And right now, I'd also encourage you to start thinking of some blockages, perhaps in your own life, which are preventing you from being happy, apart from the ones which we are going to share. And then finally, there are things, there are attitudes, there are practices, there are techniques which we'll be sharing, which is the third leg of the equation, which are things which will help us to actually walk towards that mountain, dig and find the gold. So during this weekend we'll be addressing all these 3, What I'd like to start with now is the places where we're looking for happiness in the wrong place. And I'd like to start by something which is very, very, might seem basic, but that's where most people in life, when they are just starting out, that's where they begin their search for happiness. And what Yogananda called it, he said the sense telephones, or he said sense pleasures. So we have this body, and we have a nervous system, and we have these five senses, taste, touch, hearing, smell, one more. What is it? Sight. Okay. So we have these five senses, and often man's search for happiness begins with the sense pleasures, because that is closest to us, that is what is most real to us. But what I'm going to do now, as we go through this, I'm going to put all of these things to this test and see, do they pass the test, And so let's take sense pleasures, for example. Yogananda explained that sense pleasures are a mental response to stimuli. So you stimulate something, for example, food. You're eating something and there's a stimulation, and your nervous system is experiencing that, and as a mental response to that, you may say, oh, I love this, or I don't love this, And it can happen the same way for all the different senses. So it needs stimulation. So does it conditioned or unconditioned?
Condition.
I go to watch the movies and it makes me happy, which is not a bad thing. But is that happiness conditioned or unconditioned?
Condition.
I go on a drive because I want to see this beautiful hill station, and I feel the breeze on my face, and I see the beautiful birds chirping. Conditioned or unconditioned? Okay. So that was just an example and you can just run your mind now to anything that you think. These were just a few basic examples. And just see, do they pass these tests? They're not even permanent. They're temporary, because you experience them and they're gone the next moment. It's like eating food. I had this funny story sometime back. A friend of mine took me to this really nice restaurant, which was very expensive. And, we had dinner there, and I just loved it. But then, after he had gone back home, I found myself going back to that place again and again. And, after a while I thought, I'm going back to this place, spending so much money. Why am I going back again and again? And it was a good experience. I thought it was good that I went again and again, 5, 6, 7 times, because I could test the truth of this. And after I'd gone enough time, I thought to myself, the food is the same. Okay, it's good, but it's the same. And it's kind of getting boring now. And so I was like, it's not ever new anymore. It's repetitive. It's conditioned because it's something outside myself, and it's not permanent, So, and you can think of similar situations in your life. And I was thinking, how do you explain this? Because then the obvious question can be, should we not experience anything? Should we just sit in our rooms, lock ourselves, and, just say, I am happy all the time? And I don't want to do anything with the senses. Of course not. We have these bodies, we have to use them, we have to experience them, through the senses. But the key is to remember what the purpose of the senses is and what it is not, Yogananda said, pleasure is counterfeit happiness. Now think of that for a moment. What is a counterfeit note? It's a note which has the value printed on it, 500 rupees, but it's not a real note. So it may pass off as something which is real, but it's not really real. And so that's what pleasures do, that they give the illusion that this is happiness, whereas it's not really. And I was thinking, it's a beautiful analogy. Think of a bonfire for a moment. You're out in the woods, it's very cold like it was this morning, and we're gathered around a bonfire, all of us. And what do? We put our hands close to the bonfire, and what does it do? It gives us warmth. And it's a nice feeling, no? When it's a nice cold day and you can put your hands to the fire and it gives you warmth. Now if you say, which is not a bad thing, if you say, this warmth is good but I want more, and you say, okay, let me put my hands in the fire now, what's going to happen?
Burn your hands.
Barbecue. That's right. You won't have any hands after that. But this is very, very important for us to know, because the senses are like the warmth of the bonfire. They can give us some warmth. They do. They can. But they are limited in their capacity to give us warmth. And if we want more warmth, they cannot, they cannot give us that, and we'll burn. So to remember that yes, we can, we are in this world, sense pleasures are there, we have to operate, we do them. But recognize at the back of your mind that those will not give you happiness. Their purpose is entirely different, and they can give you some warmth now and then, to get by in life, But the goal finally for us is that we want to even get away from that bonfire. That outer warmth that we are needing, we want to come to a stage in our life where we have a bonfire inside of us. Where the warmth is coming always inside and we do not have to depend on anything outside ourselves. And we will learn as we go through the weekend, how do you fire that bonfire inside which has no end, which has no limitation. And it's again very helpful when you go through life and you have a particular sense that you're, let's say, particularly it could be food or it could be whatever it might be, watching television. Just be impartial. Don't judge yourself because, like Jayaji said, awareness precedes control. So if you're upset, why am I doing this again and again? It's helpful now for us to know, okay, at least I know why this is happening, have a wisdom way to approach it, but then not judge yourself. But it's very helpful, like the musk deer, to always affirm, even if you're going through something which you should not be doing, that I am the musk deer of happiness and I have the musk within me. Swami Kriyananda used to say that often, we come with tendencies, some scars, which sometimes are not immediately be able to come under our control. But he said during those times, even if you have to do some activity which is not helpful for you, he said do not identify with it. Because when you identify with it, you are accepting that that limitation is you. Whereas we just a few minutes ago decided that no, that is not us. We are looking for a happiness which is unconditional, which is permanent, which is all these things. And so don't identify with that. And that's a good way to step back from whatever you're doing. So even while I was at that restaurant, I knew, okay, I have to let this guy play out. He's bringing me here. And how does it start? I'm at home, this thought comes, you drive into your car, you go all the way there, and then you're doing it. But then at the back of my mind, as much as possible, I was like, this is not me, it's playing out, but this is not me. And that's very helpful when we're dealing with sense pleasures. Now I want to segue into, I to now call Dr. Amar, but before that, just to say that the topic is happiness is within, and also finding happiness in the body, mind and soul. Now you might think I've just spoken about how you should not use the body to become happy. But I want to now call him, because he's a doctor, to give it to you from a different angle. We just spoke about the nervous system, we have a brain, and I just said the nervous system cannot, the sense pleasures activate the nervous system, which cannot give you happiness or pleasure beyond a certain point. But now I want to call him because we will see the flip side of it. That if we use, and Yogananda did say this, he said the brain and the nervous system, which is inside of us, he said are the altars of spirit, or you can say are the altars on which we will find that inner happiness. What Jesus spoke, Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within. So all these saints in different traditions have been referring to that, but thankfully now we're in an age where science is able to corroborate that, and so I'd like to call Dr. Amar now to share more with us on that front.
Good morning, everybody. And it's a very nice morning. In fact, this is what I was telling Gaurav, that it is very pleasant here, very green, and at the same time, and also shady and not very sunny. So, and how was your last evening? I hope all of you were here.
Yes.
You were here last evening. Yes, you're from. You're from Pune. So we have some people from Mumbai also, I think, here. Good to see. That's a very small gathering, but at the same time, it gives us a personal touch to be with each one of us. And also, as Gaurav said, that we should be looking at the happiness at the right place. If you're looking at looking for gold under the wrong mountain, so we will be definitely disappointing ourselves. So my job this morning will be to share with you the science of happiness, because just about a few days back I was reading this book which was written by a psychologist, and this psychologist has done a lot of research, and over the last about 50 or 60 years there have been about quite a few publications which in the journals of psychology and social sciences, because what is happiness has actually baffled not only philosophers, writers, social scientists and doctors and psychologists, so everybody. So this is something, and if you, as Swami Kriyananda once said, that more closer it is to your inner nature, something, some quality, it will always be very difficult to define it, because as Sadhna ji was saying, that it should be expansive, because that is our real being, and we are all expansive in our natures. But when we try to go beyond that center, the farther away from the center we go, the definition becomes easier. And as Gaurav said, that happiness is our true nature, but then how to define it would always be difficult, and this is what psychologists are battling. What is happiness? And I was reading some of the quotes of the great masters, and I will be sharing some of these things with you on e-handouts. If possible, we will be giving you some printed handouts also. And I was looking at this quote from Dalai Lama, and Dalai Lama was said that happiness is the goal of life, which we all know. And sometimes we confuse ourselves with so many things. Maybe having a big nice car and big house is my goal, but then all these things are, you can say, the roadways or pathways to the happiness, because otherwise why do we earn, and why do we have families, and why do we have anything? It is the main objective and main goal is to have happiness through all of these. So my job today would be, because as we say, we exist on three planes. Yogananda said that we have a soul, and we have a, yes. So Yogananda said that we exist on three planes. One is that the center is our soul, and then we have our minds, and the outermost circle is of our body. So when we take any subject for that matter, whether it is of happiness or whether it is of success, whether it is of anything, so we have to understand the subject on all the three planes. Otherwise, it will be incomplete, because so many times, when I discuss this in our health workshops, so I ask people, are we a body? Are we a body? Or do we have a body? We always say that my body is aching, or today I'm not feeling 100%, my mind is disturbed. So that means on somewhere down the line, we know that I am not the mind. That is why I'm saying my mind is disturbed. That means I am different from my mind. Isn't that so? So that means my reality is always, the I is something which is defined on a much deeper plane, whereas mind is something which is a shell, which is just around me, and same is with the body. So when we have to deal with any subject, whether it is health or anything, we have to take into account this triune nature. Yogananda put it in a different way, that we have three bodies, and he said that yes, we have a physical body, we have an astral body, which is the energy body, and then we have a causal body, which is the blueprint, the idea blueprint and the thought blueprint, which is acting as a base and template for the rest of the other things. So now, this morning, we will be seeing that I'm going to share a secret with you. And this secret, we all like secrets. And this secret is that, do we have a happiness switch in our bodies? Do we have? So this is, some time back, there was a book which I read, and the title of the book was, and mind you, this book was written by a neuroscientist. And this book is a compilation of all the research that has happened in 15-20 years on the subject of the brain. And this person, and in fact, when I was in my medical school, this was just about 20 years back, we used to be taught in our medical schools that brain is one organ which develops only up to the age of 5 or 7, and beyond that there is no development. And this is what they were teaching in medical schools worldwide. And but now if you see, there is a complete sea change in the scientific understanding, and the same scientists are now, they are saying that no, we were not right at that point of time. And brain is a very pliable, very elastic organ, and it continues to grow even when we are 70, 80 or 90 years old. But it all depends how we handle it. So this is complete U-turn. I mean, just about 15, 20 years back, they were teaching this in medical schools, that brain stops growing after the age of 5 or 7. And so this scientist has, seen lot of, he after, seeing the brain scans of people, those who were meditating and those who were not meditating, he was able to, and thanks to the technology, because we are living in an age where we can look into and peep into this organ, what is happening. And as Gaurav was saying, that Yogananda said that nervous system is the altar of the spirit. So what does that mean? Do we really have a switch in our brains, which can give us joy? And this is how, if I can share with you a small diagram of a brain. Our brain is something like this. There is a So there is a frontal part of the brain, which you can say, so I should draw this as a forehead, and then there is a nose here, and something like this. Okay, so this part is the frontal, which is just closer to our forehead, is something, is the newest, if in the evolutionary process, if you see, this is the newest part of the brain. If you see animals, they don't have foreheads. They just have a very sharp, slant right from the nose, and they just get into the back of the brain. So if I divide brain into three parts, we have a frontal part, we have a middle part, and then we have a hind brain, or the base part, and then we have a brain stem, and then we have a cord which is running through our backbones. Okay, so now what these scientists have found was that right in the frontal parts of our brain, we have certain centers that if they are stimulated, they naturally give you joy, they give you compassion, they give you universal feeling of universal love, they make you think creative, they offer you solutions. So you see, this is a switch, you can say it's a magic switch which nature has provided us, but often it stays switched off, or only once in a while it gets switched on. And so we sometimes, there are moments in our lives when we feel happy for no reason. Is that true? Maybe everything is just the same, but you just feel that, okay, it's a very nice morning and I'm feeling very good today. Although the conditions are the same, as Gaurav was saying, that although we are looking for toys and conditions outside us, but then what is different? So the difference is that more the switch gets on that day, or maybe there is more energy. And how do you switch on? How do we switch on the current? The thing the scientists found was that they did scans on many people, and this were like they had two groups of people. One was those who were not meditating, absolutely worldly people, and they were doing on Buddhist monks the same scans, or some Zen monks, different cultures, different backgrounds. So there is nothing about any specific group. So it was completely secular way to assess and do the science, because scientists never go into one shell. And so they found were very interesting, that these meditators, they had very thick prefrontal lobes. The brain thickness was very different in a meditator as compared to a non-meditator. So there they found, and the title of the book was How God Changes Your Brain. So this is very interesting, and I would like all of you to read this book, and it is available on Amazon. And the author of the book is Dr. Andrew Newberg, and he's a neurologist and a neuroscientist. And in fact, when he was doing this research, his contemporary other peer group was actually not supporting him, but he still continued, and this is how he got it. So, we'll be sharing, what are the ways. So I told you that if you really want to switch on this happiness switch in your body, there are many ways to do that, and meditation is just one of these. So what can be the other? Any guesses? How do you think? Gulab jamun? Yeah. Yes. So gulab jamun will be coming somewhere. I have not talked much about the base of the brain. Just like in a house, we have sometimes a basement, a ground floor, and a attic. But we mostly live on the ground floor, and just once in a while go to the basement, or very rarely we go to the attic. So what this base of the brain indicates is that this is actually a pattern which we have carried from our past incarnations. When we have developed a habit, let us say I like coffee. But what makes me like coffee? What is it that you say that I like coffee? Maybe Gaurav doesn't like, he likes tea or something. But what is that which makes me like gulab jamun or coffee, or for that matter anything? What is that? So this is something of which I have created a pattern in my base of the brain, because I have done that action in past, as Gaurav was saying, that he enjoyed good food in a good hotel, and because it gave him a joy, so he wanted to repeat it. So because we have developed a pattern, he wanted to go there more and more and more. So because you want to, body has a tendency and a brain has a this thing to repeat the pleasure. This is what is a pleasure, and we have to differentiate between joy and pleasure, which we will be doing in these sessions. That what is the difference? So what gulab jamun is offering you is a pleasure, because you have created that pattern in the past, and that is why, let us say, if I give you one gulab jamun, you will be feeling nice, and I offer you one more, and you will say, okay, thanks, good. But what if I give you, feeding you gulab jamuns in breakfast, lunch, and dinner? So what will happen? You will get bored of it, and maybe you will just throw them out and maybe abuse me or whatever. That what are you? You are just feeding me only with gulab jamuns. And there is a very interesting story which I was reading in this book of Yogananda, where he has talked about the grapes, and it is very similar. So you see, I'm not going into that track, that gulab jamun can give you real joy, and you all have agreed that it will give you a nice pleasure. But what I'm talking about, the switch, as Gaurav has already defined, that this happiness is going to be unconditional and ever new. So we have to get and stick to that baseline definition to which we have all agreed, that it should be ever new. Gulab jamun is not going to be ever new. It is going to be the same. And meditation is one, which scientists have found that this was giving them joy, which was ever new. So there was no dispute about it. So what else can give us? Because there is a switch, and this switch needs to be on. Otherwise, if it is not on, then we are in the base of the brain, or probably here, and we don't even know that something good might be lying in the attic, because we don't visit there. So, any other guesses? Medication? No. Yeah, but I hope there could be some medication which can just give you. And sometimes, people go into these kind of artificial. There is a way to artificially stimulate the center, which sometimes they do by taking drugs. And that is why people get addicted to drugs and these things, because they stimulate it artificially. But then we have to understand that there is a principle in universe that if you take an outside help, if you depend, because it's a dual nature. So if you are taking a pleasure from outside source, then there has to be whatever goes up has to go down. And so that is why, when that pleasure doesn't last after, because you have stimulated yourself from an outside agency, there has to be a deeper trough. And that is why these people, they go into equal and opposite depression also after that temporary high. That is why, people sometimes take alcohol, and alcohol gives them that high, they feel good, but immediately after that, there is going to be a polar opposite, because nothing in this universe can sustain itself. There has to be a polar opposite. If we have stimulated ourselves for a pleasure, then sooner or later we will have to experience the opposite trough, which is going to be the sadness, disappointment, or something opposite to that. So, yes, drugs are available, but then we have to pay a price. Because this, yes, somebody was saying something. Music, good, very good. And this music, but not, do you think any music or any particular kind of music? Soft? Uplifting. Yes. Because, they did a research on, plants. And to one plant, they were feeding him rock music, whereas the other plant, they were feeding him the classical music. And even the plants had this wisdom that they started growing and, towards the speaker which is offering and feeding them the classical music, and they were, covering it thoroughly, and they were running away from the rock music. So yes, uplifting music. We have some of the finest music, Swami Kriyananda composed almost 400 pieces. Yes. Illusions. What yeah, what illusion, I would say, not illusion, but visualization. Yeah, visualization. Imagination is a very good tool. And visualization can help. They did a research some time back that, what, let us say you are having some time and you sit and you're not feeling good, but then if you can visualize, if you can just go in the past and just think about the good moments in your life, when somebody maybe gave you some good gift, or somebody gave you a praise, or you get a raise in your salary, or whatever it was, you enjoyed a nice vacation. And even with visualizing that good experience, you can have a good feeling about it. So use that tool. We need to use that, because imagination is something. So that's great. One, visualization can help. Yes. Anything else? Yes, service. But then service has a catch to it. What is that catch? How should be that service? We are all serving without any expectations. Yes, it should be selfless. And this is something which they found. Now I'm going to share after this. We'll be doing a small workshop. So because we should not be talking too much, and then I will be sharing some research which has come recently about these things that we are doing. And yes, anything else comes to our mind? Love, yes. And loving. So it is just like, selfless service, as Anuji said. So loving, also, there is something in love which is a very, which it's a beautiful aspect to our all human nature. And loving, again, has the same component, that you're not loving the person for your own wants, but it is like you're offering. So when we offer love, it is not that we are asking for love. When we offer love, so unconditional offer, just like the selfless, service should always be taken as an aspect of offering and loving without expectation of anything in return. So that definitely gives us joy. But I'm trying to come to something, which we can do all the time, and it is just like getting into it. And so those things are very simple, and we will be doing those. People have found that uplifting the gaze and watching the breath This is something we can do all the time. Can switch on this switch. So this is very easy. Uplifting gaze, and we will do this. And this just a few days back, and anything else comes to your mind?
Something like writing anything or making some painting or
Yes. Creative writing and creative painting, because what is happening? Because you see, this center is not only responsible for joy but is also responsible for creativity. So when you do creative writing and when you do some creative painting, you are actually operating from here. Isn't that so? And similarly, I told you that this is the center for universal compassion. So when you are offering love, you are already working from here. Similarly, when you are working selflessly and when you are seeking solution, when you are doing some decision making, that is why people, those who are very intellectually curious and they want to do something and they want to do something new, they are always they're operating from here, because this is the center of discrimination. This is the center of intellect. And Yogananda said that this is the center of will also. So, yes, so creative writing and anything very simple.
completing our task. Like today we have come here first time. So
Yeah.
we have decided it.
Yes.
So like I feel happiness really to see and
To be here. Yes, because you had a feeling of accomplishment, that I wanted to do something and I did it. Very good, very good. And I'm going to share one of these research with you, that when you complete a task and you do, and you are self motivated, and that you continue to do the task even if it gets boring for a while, but you are just at it and you are 100% on it, and after a while when you accomplish it, that gives you joy. Because why it gives you? Because I told you this is the area of will also. So when you were applying your will, you were actually working from your prefrontal cortex. So because you stimulated your will, you got happiness. But I'm coming to very simple something which we can do like that and you are happy. What is that? Positive thoughts, yes. Anything else? You do all the time. Good, there you are. So Yogananda said, be a smile millionaire. And I'm going to share this research which was done on baseball players. Very interesting. And what they did was that they took a registry of all the baseball players in the past, and they had a big data, their age, their physical structure, their family and everything. But they saw that some baseball players uh, were smiling and some were not smiling. So they actually did a research, and so shall I rub it? So what they did was that they divided their smiles into three categories. One was not smiling, the other was partially smiling, and the third category was what they call a Duchenne smile, and it was like a big smile. Sometimes you show all your teeth and you're like grinning, and this is like a very big smile. So, and it was very interesting what came out, that people, those who were not smiling, let us say if they lived for 70 years, people, those who had baseball players, those who were partially smiling, they were living 2 years more. But those who were having big smiles, they were actually living 7 years more than the people, those who were not smiling at all. So you see, for the first time, they could bring it to that, scientific way to see, like, smiles can give you longevity. It was as simple as that. And broader the smile, more is the longevity. So, it is something like this. This is one area, and that is why it's no joke. I mean, why Yogananda was a very practical man. I mean, just think about. He told us that even if you are not feeling like smiling, just stand in front of the mirror and pull your outer corners and I mean, when I read that first time, I thought that is it really working or is it a crazy thought? But it does work. I mean, you do it, and I think I have done it many times, so it does work. When you don't feel like smiling, get in front of the mirror. Yeah. Away, away. Okay, okay. Maybe I don't need a mic. Yeah. So, okay. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So I think we should keep it a little farther. Yeah. Is this what you're saying? Just some distance. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should have other mics now. Yeah. Yeah. So let us, the other thing, so let us, we'll be doing some exercise now so that, we get into because the idea of this whole retreat on happiness is not only to talk about happiness, but also feel happiness. So let us bring our chairs a little on the back and we'll do a small exercise. And because I forgot to tell you that one important thing which switches on the switch is energization exercises, and this is what we are going to do now. But I will do just very few about maybe just so you can come in the front. Yeah, and create a space in between yourself so that you don't touch anyone with your arms. So, yeah. So the first, have you done, any of us, have we done these energization exercises? How many of us know already? This morning we did 20. So I'll be doing just about 5 or 7, not all 39. So the first exercise is the double breath. So where we first expel the air out in double twice, and then we inhale twice. So it is like this. Very good. So the second exercise is bring your hands on your shoulders and keep the elbows closer to the chest and tense your shoulders slightly. Raise them, bring the tension up and relax, and you calm them down. So do some shoulder rotations. Or you can rotate them otherwise. Yes. Now let's do some arm rotations. Yes, like this. As you go behind, go with some tension. As you come forward, come relaxed. Yes. And now we do some single arm raises. Just feel that you are carrying a heavy bucket in your hand and you have to raise it. Yes, relax. 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 Some side to side stretches. Yes. And let's start walking. Yes. And there is no tax on the smile, so you can smile freely. Yeah, we are going through the painful phase of GST and so many things. So yes. So you see, smiling is works like a magic. And let us start some running. Good. Yes. Do some fencing. Feel you're like pushing like a heavy door. And just rotate your arms in large circles. And the final exercise where you just allow your heartbeat to calm down. As you breathe out, bring the arms away from the chest. As you breathe in, bring them closer to the chest. Very good. So now you can take your chairs and we'll do. So this was the first experiment we did this morning. The hypothesis was that exercise switches on the happiness switch. So how many of you agree that exercise switches on? Good. Good. So yes, so this is how we work in science. Yogananda said that be a spiritual scientist. Experiment. If you get a proof, you know it. So bring it, make a circle. Like so, we'll be now doing the other experiment. So make the similar circle, and yes, can come closer. We are not a very big group, so make a closer circle. Yes, and please make it a very neat circle. Neatness is also very important if you are looking for happiness. Yes, it should be very tidy and neat. Use your creativity. Yes, Satvik, yes, please help, beta. Arrange the chairs in a good semicircle. Yeah. Yes. Okay, okay, let it be. Yeah, that's okay. So let's sit now. And you can keep your diaries and notebooks maybe by your side. We don't need them now. I'll give you whatever I'm discussing, I'll send you all on emails. Yeah, so I'll give you everything. We have some beautiful e-handouts. So you don't need to write everything. Once in a while, you can write a few points. Yeah, ma'am, please keep it down. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So now the second hypothesis which we are going to test is that I told you that uplifting the gaze and watching your breath can also switch on your happiness switch. And we're going to test that. Okay? So let us close our eyes and be very relaxed. We will not do anything. And try to give and try to just scan your body and mind and give yourself a score on 0 to 10. Whatever it is, it just scan your body from head to toe. Allow your heartbeat and respiration to calm down. And let us take one deep breath from the nose and leave it in 3 times. Let's do it one more time. Take a deep breath. So now I'm going to count for you to the count of 6. To the count of 6 we inhale, and to the count of 6 we exhale. So let us start inhaling. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let us do it 3 times at our own pace. To the count of 6 we inhale. Keep a mental count. And to the count of 6 we exhale. And let us add now one more component if you are done. Now when you are inhaling, try to feel the breath in the nostrils. Where in your nostrils you are able to feel? Is it lower down? Is it in the middle of the nostrils? Or is it high up in the nostrils? Keep on inhaling at the normal pace. You don't have to keep a count now. Just watch your breath. Let it flow at its natural rhythm. But try to feel the point in the nose where the breath is touching and going. If your mind wanders, just bring it gently and try to feel the breath. You can even feel the temperature of the breath. But try to focus at the point where in the nose you are able to feel. And now let's add one more component into the exercise now. Gently you need to uplift your gaze now. And imagine that there is a moon shining high in the sky. The moon is beautiful, it is bright. And the cool moonlight is falling on you. All you have to do is just focus on the moon and feel the cool rays falling on you. Continue to breathe at normal rhythm. Just keep your gaze on the moon and let the breath happen. Let us sit in this experience for 2 minutes. and watch intently. Be very, very intent in this exercise only for 2 minutes. Keep your bodies relaxed, keep your breath very calm. Now you can take a very long, deep breath and throw it out 3 times gently. And you can slowly open your eyes. So, would anybody like to share what happened? I see you smiling, ma'am, so I think you are the right person to share some experience. I'm not able to see your name from here. Shilpa ji, yes. So, would you like to tell us something?
No, when you said that see the moon high and whole rays are falling, then I feel very good and felt to smile.
You felt like smiling.
Yeah.
Good. So, what were we doing at that time? I gave you a hypothesis in the beginning that you uplift your gaze when you're looking at the moon. Actually, your eyes are uplifted. And I told you that when you uplift, you are sending energy to the switch, and the switch is on. Suddenly, the current flows in the switch, and you feel joy. So that's the science. We are discussing the science of happiness. So this is the science operating behind the scenes. And anybody else would like to share something? What happened?
Actually, I imagined that whatever you said, but in between I was thinking a little bit
Thoughts were coming and going.
coming, but
Yeah.
I let it go.
But how was the feeling? Let us say, how was the score before the exercise, and how was the score after the exercise?
After the exercise, score I think it is better.
Score was better. Yes, you don't need to tell me the score, but you can tell me whether it was going up and down. So anybody else like to share? Satvik, you did it? You could do something.
Yeah, I just when I was seeing the moon, I saw up, and I was feeling good.
You are feeling good. Good. Great. Would you like to share this with your friends?
Yeah,
Very good. Nice boy. So you're in which grade? Very good. So now, this is because I sometimes feel that we teach wrong things in the schools. And it is high time that we should start teaching the right things, because otherwise we are actually creating more mess. And yes, I was reading about this, you know, Dalai Lama's, quote, and he was saying that if we can teach young children meditation, all of them, in just one generation, you will see that we will have global peace and no war. So, I mean, that's a statement. Just imagine, it takes just one generation to take care of the whole world if you just tell them and teach them the right things. So now we have some, sir. Do we have some time?
Yes, but give people a chance to ask you questions.
Yes. So let us say now is the time. Yeah. Yes. So anybody, if like, because then I will be
Is it like possible to always keep the switch on?
good. Yes, I think Jayaji would be better answering this question. Sir, you would like to?
Well, let me wait till I get my chance.
Okay. Yes, it is possible. It is possible, and that is why when you see, when we talk of the realized masters, if you see some of these great yogis, they developed that ability to keep the switch always open and on all the time, and that is what we are trying to reach, that point. If it is on all the time, then you are in bliss. Have you seen the image of Swami Kriyananda here? If you just see his face, he is always in bliss. You can feel that bliss coming out of his picture. This is because that switch is always on, and that is why even coming into the magnetic field of such a saint, you will feel joy. Whenever we used to be around him, you may be probably having, let us say, n number of questions before meeting him, and this was my personal experience, I'm saying. But the moment you get into his aura, get into his magnetic field, because wherever there is current, there is a magnetic field around, and whenever you get into that magnetic field, you are into that happiness aura. And this is what, and I'm going to talk about one research also. Any other question? Brain is a part of mind or a body. Yes, that's a confusion for many people. You see, you should see it like this, that brain is just an organ of the body, whereas mind is, it's an electromagnetic blueprint which is being expressed through the brain. So you can say that mind is something which is, as I told you, it is in the circle. So deep down you have your soul. Over that there is a mental blueprint, or you can say the mind, and mind carries all that energy. Just like we have steam, and if you condense the steam, you get water, and if you condense the water further, you get ice. So if you have steam, steam is like the soul, and if you condense the steam, you get water. Water is like mind, and if you condense the water further, you get body. So you see, the physical body is an extension of the mind, and everything is coming actually from the soul, from the spirit. So it is like coming down, down, down into the solid structure. So now quantum physics is telling us that nothing is actually solid. If you see now, everything is appearing, giving you an illusion of solidity. But if you keep on breaking, let us say you keep this thing and break it to the smallest unit, what do you get? You get the atoms of the iron or steel. And if you break them further, what do you get? Yes. And you break them further, what do you get? Leptons and quarks and gluons and maybe? Yes. But then scientists have gone beyond that, and when you keep on breaking, they found a very interesting discovery that after they break everything, the total mass of all those subatomic particles was just 5% of the atom. So where was that 95% coming from? And then they saw that it was all energy. That is why what you see around appears to be solid, but then it is a condensed energy, something like the propeller of an aircraft. It is vibrating at such a high speed that it creates an illusion of solidity. So all this energy is vibrating at such a high speed, and our eyes can only see up to a certain spectrum. So we cannot see beyond those little things, and that is why it is the same. So in mind, you can say body is just an extension of the mind, and brain is a part of the body, but then it is helping you express your mind. So you could understood that? Without closing our eyes, we can stay in meditation for 24 hours. Yes. So that I will leave to Jayaji when he will come and he will share that. So please, Jayaji, just remember a question, which which he will be happy to address, because this is something, because now in this class we are dealing more with mind and body, because what you are asking is a question more of a spirit part in us, which he will be dealing in one of these sessions, that how the spirit in us will help us give that joy. Okay, but you will definitely get your answer, I'm sure about that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you keep your eyes slightly open,
Okay.
and that time you happen to notice the things which are happening around,
Yes.
disturbing your
Yeah.
meditative state.
Yes, yes.
So how do you get over to that?
Yeah, so in initial stages, it is you can close your eyes completely. I wouldn't say that you keep them half open, but you can close your eyes completely, but you can uplift your gaze. So when I'm saying this, it is like your eyes are completely closed, but the gaze behind the closed eyes, just like you are watching, you're imagining. So that is why I'm saying you're visualizing, you're imagining. So when you are imagining that the sky is above and moon is somewhere here, so your eyes are closed, but in your imagination you are looking at the moon. So the eyes are uplifted. So then there will not be any distraction from around what is happening.
What is this middle part of brain is associated with?
Yes.
We said base is with the pleasure and
Yeah.
senses.
Yes. Yeah. So that is a good question. So mind, brain, as I said, you has a base, has a middle part, and has a forebrain. So this base part is all sum total of the subconscious mind, you can say. All the subconscious patterns which we have done in the past, everything is stored up here. And the middle part is the conscious brain, because I am talking, you are listening, so we are here somewhere in the middle part of the brain.
When we daydream, that
Yeah.
time which part of the brain we are?
When we dream, so we are into the base of the brain, we are in the subconscious mind, we are dreaming, we are not conscious. So when we are in the middle part of the brain, we are conscious. We are
Like where is it?
let me just answer her question first, and then I'll give you. So the third part is the front part, and this is the superconscious state. When we are in the forebrain, we go into the superconscious realm. So we have three states of consciousness: subconscious, conscious, and superconscious. So this is how there are three levels in the organ also. So depending upon on we are stimulating which part of our organ, we can go in the mind to that level of consciousness. So as you were saying, mind, so you are actually using your brain as a tool, but you are reaching the higher plane in the consciousness in your mind. So you understand that? So that you are actually tracing from the base of the brain, and you are keeping more of your energy in this part, so you are in the super conscious state.
So is it possible to merge subconscious and conscious mind together?
Subconscious and
Conscious.
conscious mind together. Yeah, see, actually these strata of consciousness are not you can say they are the Swami in fact once said that there is only one reality, and that is super conscious reality. But because we are in different states of energy, we are in different states of consciousness, so that is why we are not able to see the super conscious reality always, but we try to just like if let us say a motor can only utilize a current depending upon how much coil strength it has. So if it is a weak motor which can work only on 12-volt battery, and if you just connect it with 250 volts, it will not be working, or it will burn itself out. So that is why we are trying to improve the coil strength, we are trying to gradually improve the capacitance, and as we continue to grow in our capacitance, we will be able to stay in the superconscious state always. So probably that answers your first question also, that how can you stay in superconscious state always. For that we have to do self effort, we have to improve our capacity, and when that capacity of coil strength will improve, you will see that there was only a superconscious reality, and conscious and subconscious realms are only part of it.
Can we, see, there are three parts of your mind, body, and soul. So can we just energize our soul?
Yes.
can we have any process of energizing your soul? Like you said,
Yes.
you know, in our quantum physics, you know, there is a 95% is the energy.
Yeah.
So in that context, can we energize our soul so you know you can feel that 95% of the space and uplift yourself or go to super conscious mind?
Yes, it is absolutely possible, and that is because the only thing it is because when we are what is the seat of the soul, you may say. The seat of the soul is the frontal part of the brain, and although the soul is not something which is very limited because it is not defined. The moment you define something that it is here only, then it is omnipresent actually. But then it can be traced, or it can be felt, or it can be reached through this point. So you can say that is a doorway through which you are reaching to your soul. You are connecting with the soul, and it is quite possible. And when we are doing energization exercises, when we are doing prana, when we are doing watching the breath exercise, and when we are uplifting the gaze, we are actually trying to connect with the soul and trying to give energy to the soul, and that is what we are doing. But then, as the question was that it is if it is possible to stay, is it possible to stay in the soul consciousness all the time? Then what we have to do is that we have to remove the identification of our consciousness with the body and mind. So it is something like that if you are, let us say, in a hot air balloon, and you are inflating the balloon with warm air, and the balloon is ready to go up, but then there are heavy ropes which are tying the balloon to the ground. So unless you cut the ropes or untie the ropes, the balloon is not going to go up in the air. So what you are saying, the soul is already there and you are trying to connect. So whatever is attaching you to your body, whatever is attaching to your subconscious mind, you have to remove that, and then you can soar in the soul and you can stay in the soul. How to identify those ropes? Yes, awareness. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So maybe if there are other questions. Okay, one last
So
question.
science is not believing the soul, no? So
Science,
the question.
because science is also evolving. If you see, just about 100 years back, they were not even believing that. Just I told you right now that 15 years back, science was not understanding this fact that brain can continue to evolve. It can grow. Even neurons can grow. So it is only now that science accepts this fact that brain is a very plastic and elastic structure which is known as a neuroplasticity. If you go into the Google and put neuroplasticity, then you will get n number of articles which will tell you that brain doesn't stop growing even at the age of 90. So that is why science doesn't know the whole truth. Science knows partial truth. And that is why now, just because now quantum physics is one reality, if you are interested in that subject, if you read quantum physics, you will see that what a quantum physicist is saying is actually a leaf taken from Vedanta, and they are on the same page. They say that everything is a conscious reality, just like as I was saying you that energy is the blueprint of the matter. Now quantum physicists also know this fact that from where this energy is coming, what is the blueprint of the energy, and they're saying that it is all mind stuff, it is all thoughts. So thoughts are giving energy, and energy is creating the matter. And where are those thoughts coming from? Thoughts can only come from the consciousness, and soul is nothing but conscious awareness. So science is trying reaching up to that fact, and but we are in an interesting era where if you read quantum physics, you will see that they are actually talking about the same thing. But because great masters, that is why they come, because science can go up and down as we evolve on the planet, but then there is a deeper truth, there is an absolute truth. That is why they have to come and tell us and awaken the humanity that there is a higher goal. Live up to it. Yeah.
You said now the science has agreed that the brain cells are growing. you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So can a damaged brain be grow and
Absolutely.
so
This is what
like,
happened. Yeah.
You know, now people say if your brain is damaged, it is permanent damage, or your heart cells are muscles are damaged, or permanent damage.
Yeah.
But going through the news science,
Yeah.
you are saying that the brain can be regenerated.
Yes. It can be regenerated, and this is what was the study for the scientists, some years back, when they did this experiment on people, those who have stroke. And some people who have this stroke, so part of their brain cells are dead because they have because of what we call as ischemia. The blood supply doesn't reach there, so when the nutrition doesn't reach there, those cells are dead. But they did this experiment on these patients, and what they did was that, let us say, one half of their body was paralyzed because one half of the brain is not working. So let us say if this side is paralyzed, they did this experiment in this group of patients, that how can they give more energy to this part so that the brain cells start regenerating. So what usually happens with paralyzed patients is that when part is paralyzed, they stop using it because they see that it is not working. So they only do their tasks with their normal hand, and as a result it continues to grow weaker and weaker and weaker, and a time comes that it goes into contractures, and you sometimes see that they come with shriveled arms and with atrophic limbs. But what they did was something very interesting in this group, that they said that they tied their normal arm by a strap, something very simple, and they told them that you don't have to use your normal arm, you just have to use your paralyzed arm, come what may. And this was a very intensive exercise. They had all the support, I mean, they were not left like that, they had all the support of nurses, paramedics around. But then the task initial was very simple, that all they have to do was keep sending energy to the paralyzed arm, keep sending energy, even if there is no movement, doesn't matter, keep sending energy, keep sending energy. And maybe after about 6 weeks there was a mild flicker in one set of the group of the muscles, and they said, okay, but you continue that. And then they gave them maybe a minor task of just lifting a pen or something like that, and then they kept on gradually upgrading the task. And these exercises were so intense that sometimes patients used to exhaust themselves, and they used to go to sleep because it was very intense. So you see, when you are intensely sending energy, Yogananda said very interesting, that all healing takes place through life force. Now if your heart is weak or if your ankle is weak, the point is very simple, that less life force is reaching to your ankle, that is why it is weak. So if you are able to send more life force to the injured part, it will start healing. It is as simple as that. And one of the doctor, Dr. Dean Ornish, he did his experiment on reversing heart disease. If you read this book, people, those who had bypass surgeries, those who had heart attacks, they recovered without any bypass surgery, without any angioplasties on them and their heart.
Speaking of recovering, we have chai has arrived.
Okay. Yes, let's have some tea.
So I think let's just take a 5-minute break. If you need to use the restroom, there's one right up here, and I'll just give out chai and then we'll continue.
So in that state, and that state can be there sometimes in the morning hours when you wake up, and you feel uplifted, you feel joy for no reason.
What is uplifted?
Uplifted is when your spirits are up. We say sometimes you're in a good mood, and you look very light today, or you're uplifted. So we are talking about the mood.
Do meditation help us to increase our awareness and proactiveness as well?
Absolutely. That is why we are here.
So, as you said about the switch, the position of the switch is here.
Yes, it is in the frontal part of the brain, which is known as prefrontal cortex. And if you see, this area is right above the roof of the nose. And nature actually has given a very thin plate of bone which is separating the roof of the nose from the brain. So that is why when we are watching our breath, what we are doing, we are concentrating here, and you are actually stimulating your prefrontal cortex.
So, some people say we should concentrate here, or some people say we should concentrate here in the middle part. So, what is the exactly?
See, Swami said that the point between the eyebrows. So this is the root of the nose, you can say, the point between the eyebrows, and it is not exactly this point, but the part of the brain behind this point, which you are stimulating. So because here it is all skin and bone, so it is something which is behind it and right up the roof of the nose. So that part. So you have to feel it. So you have to feel and be sensitively aware of that.
When we do meditation, do you feel some heaviness here?
Yeah, so maybe then you are concentrating too much, and if you can just relax a little bit and keep your eyes gently uplifted and relaxed. So relaxation is very important. I think we will be talking about these things in coming sessions. So this is just a beginning.
Is it the place where
I
this
have found that once you learn to be relaxed when looking here, that very often you'll feel as though a magnet is here holding your gaze up, and you no longer have to work at it. It's just happening for you already because of the practice that you've done.
And I have one question. When we concentrate here, the position of our eyeballs should be here. When we close our eyes, the eye position of
See, the position of the eyes is, gently up. So you don't have to converge your eyes. It's not like you have to cross your eyes. You're just lifting them up. And maybe one exercise, like if you just put your thumb like this and raise it a little bit and keep watching your thumb. And now remove your thumb and close your eyes. So your eyes are at that point, that imaginary point. So something like this you can do. Just like I told you this exercise of looking at the moon. So moon is high up in the sky. So you are watching the moon. So your eyes are already uplifted at that point. So you're not crossing your eyes. You're very relaxed. You're just watching the moon. That's all.
this particular location, is it the location where the serotonin is getting created?
Yes.
That's the gland where you have that.
Yeah. So we have a master gland here. Not exactly here, but behind this part.
I know, but we'll just pick it up in the next one.
So that gland is a pituitary gland, in fact, but then which is known as the master gland of all the endocrine glands. But then also apart from this pituitary, we have a pineal gland, and pineal, as far as modern medical science goes, they know very few things about pineal gland. One is that, and there is a one school of thought which says that pineal is one gland, which is even the supermaster, you can say, over the pituitary. And but pineal gland has a very characteristic about it itself is that it is the light, the daylight rhythm affects the pineal gland. So it is secreting one hormone which is known as melatonin, which is dependent on how much exposure to daylight we are having and how much restful sleep you have in the night. So I'm going to touch that part also, that how happiness is linked with the hormones, or you can say the chemical neurotransmitters in our body.
Morning your mood is high, or
Yeah.
so that time, that particular timing of or morning time,
Yes.
that is related to your hormones.
Yes. Because you see, as I told you, after the restful sleep, yeah, Gaurav, I can have some more.
Yeah, you need it with all these questions being fired at you.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Chai is the universal regenerator.
Oh yeah. And now they know. Yes. So you see, when we will be, scientists know very little about this fact. And if I have read physiology, and physiology is one subject that they teach you in the first year when you go to a medical school, which is about normal functioning of the body. And it was very interesting when I saw in the physiology textbook that they have still no explanation that how sleep rejuvenates us. They have no explanation. I mean, absolutely. Although they may be talking of X, Y, Z, but then they do not have this explanation that why you go tired in the sleep and you come and wake up refreshed.
Isn't it kind of like when you don't know what's wrong with the computer, the best thing to do is just turn it off and reboot it. Isn't it like that? It just reorganizes,
Yes.
Yeah.
it reboots everything?
Yeah, this is what scientists are touching to that fact now, that it is rebooting your brain, and sleep is actually rebooting your brain. But then that is also a partial explanation, because it is not the real explanation, which I could only get from what Yogananda's teachings were there. And Yogananda was very clear that when you sleep, you withdraw, your energy goes into the nervous system actually. So putting it that we are using energy when you are in the daytime, working through exercise, muscles, and they need rest. That is why muscles get tired. So in sleep, what happens? Energy is withdrawn from the muscles, from the body. That is why when there is no energy in the body, you are just lying flat on the bed. And all this energy goes into the brain and the nervous system, where it remains in touch with your soul. And since the soul is the magnet and soul is the power which is drawing coming from the spirit, that rejuvenates the whole system. And when you wake up, you are fresh, because that is the time when you have touched the soul part of yourself. But that is the subconscious way of touching it. So it is a very partial touch. But when you do it super consciously through meditation, you are doing it consciously, and that is why it is 1,000 times more rejuvenating than the ordinary sleep. That is what Yogananda said, and that made it crystal clear. So science has to catch up with that, but sooner or later they will reach up to that fact. But they, up till now, they only know that sleep somehow reboots your brain. But what is that rebooting, and what is, so that there are so many questions still left unanswered, which science has no answers. External source. Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk about the diet. And
No,
also,
I'm talking about the diet and
Okay.
food. It's not rejuvenating your muscle or to get energy to your soul. What is the
I think that we will discuss, go into that.
okay?
Yeah, we will cover that. I mean, meditation is one, but there are other ways, and we will go into that. Yeah.
see, you should see from this angle that soul doesn't need energy. Soul is already energy. Soul is already a part of spirit. So when we feel tired, it is actually we are going away from our soul state. So when we reach back to our center, we automatically feel refreshed, because we are living more in the mind and body.
So you don't need external energy to
No.
rejuvenate.
For soul, there is no need. Soul is already all
Energized.
complete. It is a part of God. So God is giving soul the energy. You don't have to energize. Rather, soul will energize you, your body and mind.
Yeah.
So we need energy. So there are certain external sources of energy for the mind and body through food, sunlight. And sunlight is one which we are not utilizing to the maximum. And we should be sitting in the sun for at least 10 minutes every day. And because we are not different from plants, and see the difference. If you very recently have started having my breakfast in the sun, and in the morning I just do, and after my exercise I have my breakfast, so that gives me 10-15 minutes having breakfast in the sun, and that has really helped me. And it is now on the one Sunday, we'll be having one workshop on bone health in Pune. So if some of you can come to that, so we'll be talking more about the sun and how it is important.
Meditation and super consciously doing meditation. So I don't understand what is the difference and what is the meaning of that. Consciously doing meditation and super consciously doing meditation.
In meditation, you are actually going from consciousness to super consciousness. So certainly you cannot meditate if you are in your subconscious state. You are sleeping, so you cannot meditate while sleeping. So we are all in our conscious state, and when we meditate, we are taking that leap from consciousness to super consciousness. Okay. So how much time, sir, we have now?
You take as much time as you feel necessary, because we have. Are you going to be here this afternoon? No, you're going. Yeah.
After the
Because we have the afternoon session and we have tomorrow morning session. So, okay, we only have you once. So you say.
So maybe I'll take just 15 minutes more.
Yeah, you fill in what you need, and then you have to go afterwards, and so you won't be back.
Thank you. Thank you. So are we feeling refreshed after the tea?
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
It's disproving my theory.
We'll get back to it. Even body. Yes, and body needs some nourishment. Yes, so that is not that. Have you read about this lady Giribala in autobiography of a yogi? Have you read? Yes. So what was the special quality? Yes. Yes. So until we reach that stage, you eat tea and food. So up till now, what have we discussed? It is very important to summarize. Otherwise, we keep forgetting. So I would like you to share just one point. So that we are all on one page. What have we shared? So what gives us joy? What is happiness? Or let us say whatever is your understanding as of now.
Different ways to keep that switch on off.
We have discussed about how to keep the happiness switch on. Yes. And tell me just one thing which keeps it on.
Meditation,
Right. Okay.
music,
Music.
Smile.
Smile.
visualization,
Visualization.
creativity.
क्रिएटिविटी सर आपका वो नजर नहीं आ रहा है नहीं अच्छा है नहीं आपका नाम क्या है
कामेश्वर
कामेश्वर ओके आप कहाँ से हैं
बॉम्बे से साथ में है
वेरी गुड सो यस आप कुछ ऐड करना चाहेंगे बताइए
लव
लव यस
अनकंडीशनल
यस
Selfless service.
सेल्फलेस सर्विस साथ में task is difficult for you but then you can go to the previous class or maybe
I think whatever I had to say, everybody said it.
fine. So let us from now, we have talked about the research on the smile and also we have talked about the switch in the brain. But then there is another aspect of our happiness and which is like, do you think health and happiness are linked in any way? You think? So what is that? So what is the connection between health and happiness? So we'll talk briefly about this. So now there are so many things we are talking about health. What keeps us healthy? When you say, so happiness can only flourish, if you can say this, that happiness is like a flower, it can only flourish in a ground of peace, or you can say in a ground of health. So what keeps us healthy? We talk of so many times about health. Yes. So good diet. So what do you think about good diet? Now when you say good diet, it could be cake or pastries for Satvik, or or it could be a glass of milk for me or whatever. So what is a, so we should say balanced diet. So what is that diet? There is something very very good, and this is another there is a neurologist who has been working for last 20 years on the subject of diet and happiness, and this is like, they say that there is now an axis which is called as a brain gut axis, and they say now that stomach is your second brain, which is very interesting, that your moods depend on how is your stomach. Have you ever felt that when you are bloated or when you are actually very heavy in your stomach and when you have not able to evacuate yourself properly, you feel very low and tired those days and you are not feeling 100%. That's a common experience. We all go through that phase. And now these scientists, interestingly, they saw that in our stomach there are many friendly bacteria which are helping us, and there is also unfriendly ones. So there is a constant battle going between these two. So duality is everywhere. It is also in the stomach. So bacteria are fighting. And so you see how this friendly bacteria, or let us say the enemy ones, depending upon which side wins, our stomach is healthy if the friendly ones are winning. So, but then which side will win? It depends upon which side you feed actually, because both are the soldiers. The friendly ones are also fighting, they are fighting for you, and the enemy ones are fighting against you, and your job is to feed the right soldiers. So, how do you decide that you feed the right soldiers? So, you should know what do they like. What is their liking, so that only I should eat, so that I should be able to strengthen my friendly soldiers. And so now the research is showing that these friendly bacteria, they love to have lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, and also some dairy and poultry and proteins in the form of vegetable protein like soya. So you see, all these things they are the food for the friendly bacteria. Whereas if you talk of the enemy ones, what do they like? Any guesses?
Sugar,
Yes, they like sugar.
chai,
No, chai is not there. No, no, they like sugar. But what is junk food? Yeah, but not everything, but only the refined flour. Yes. So when you have items, the bakery items which are made from refined flour, if you are having from whole wheat, they are not bad. So whole wheat is good, but the refined flour, sugar, and also, so mainly these are the two culprits. And now there was a sea change. If you see, just about few months back, there was a complete change in what US FDA was saying regarding the cholesterol. For 100 years they fed everybody that cholesterol is bad, this, that, but ultimately now they are saying no, no, it is not that bad, it is the sugar which is bad, because they were protecting all these years, probably the sugar industry, because sugar was sugar is one preservative which we have to use in so many foodstuffs like jams and so many other things, and because without which they cannot. So now they are realizing that and if you see what Yogananda has recommended, he has given you a pie diagram for balanced diet, and his pie diagram is very simple. Now imagine that this is your food plate. So your food plate, one half of your food plate should be having salads in form of raw vegetables, or some mushrooms, or it can be tofu or some spinach leaves or whatever. So 50%, he even said to some extent 60%, that it should be raw vegetables and fruit. Now sometimes I tell my patients that if you are having 2 cooked meals in a day, your third meal, especially night, can be only of salad, which works. And I'm doing that, so I know that you don't feel tired. So, and the rest half you can divide into 2 halves. That 1/4 should be of protein, and the other half of the starch in the form of bread and roti or whatever we have. Because our diet is too much starch dependent, we are taking all the time rice or wheat, or that is why we sometimes feel very heavy in our minds, because starch and sugars, they bring your energy down and they don't let you move up on the consciousness plane. So this is very simply about the diet. So if you can remember, because health and happiness, they go together, and not only the food keeps us healthy, as I said you, sunlight, 10 minutes of sun exposure should be a part of your diet, and also exercise. Now there are ample studies which are saying that just 20 minutes of exercise per day is enough. You don't have to go to gym. And even this did a study on people those who do treadmill walk in their indoor. that is a very absurd way of exercising when God has given us so much, greenery and flowers and birds. It is the outdoor walking which research has been, showing that this brings you up on the happiness quotient, not the treadmill walking indoor. So you see, diet, exercise, and your sun. So this is how our health is related. And now I will touch one more study, which was where they saw the parameters. Many times we say that our happiness depends on outer conditions, and this was a way. There was a paper published in the Journal of Cyber Psychology, where they were doing this study on people, those who spend too much time on social medias and this thing. So what they found was very interesting, that the study was saying that 50% of our happiness depends on genetics, and 40% depends on the actions that we take, and only 10% depends on the outer conditions, which was very interesting, because sometimes we put a lot of stress on the outer conditions, and which is to say that conditions, even if they are favorable or unfavorable for the time being, because they are temporary, as Gaurav said, now it is a research proven thing that our happiness depends only 10% on outer conditions. And what are these activities? Now we always say, now lazy people can never be happy, so we need to have active life. This is one thing. And if you see genetics, now somebody can say that I am born in a particular family, what can I do about it? But then Yogananda gives the answer that, see, genes are nothing, but these are the frozen patterns of our activities which are done in the past. So let us say if I had a tendency of brooding or staying unhappy, I will attract a family which has a similar trait, and I get born in the same family. If I am habitually angry or I have a habit of losing temper, it is quite possible that I get into a family which has a similar trait. So you see, genetics is not something which is engraved in stone. Now this 50% is nothing but stored actions, and if you do right actions now, you can very well take care of your genetic makeup also. And we will talk about what those actions should be. So I will give you a 5-point program, and all this you will get in your e-handouts also. So they saw that if you come to happiness, you just have to work on these 5 traits. So what are these? The first thing they said was enthusiasm. And what is enthusiasm? Children have plenty of enthusiasm. But what is, yes, full of energy. So what comes to your mind when we say enthusiasm? You need to be enthusiastic about it. Being ready and active, yes. Being interested, yes. So all these are things: being ready, being interested. And if I can just sum it up in one word, all it needs is being lively, as you say. You see, the eyes of young children, and even if you are taking them for a small trip and they are so lively, they are looking forward to it. As Swami said, say yes to life. And this is what is like having enthusiasm. And second trait they found was empathy. What is empathy? Yes. So it is, empathy is helping, first understanding the other people's realities, and if you find them that they need help, you offer help, you help them. So it is, the simple principle is that what you want to have for yourself, you need to first give that. So if you want happiness, then you have to first give happiness. So if you will give, you will automatically get. There is a universal law. So this is something, and people have done studies on people, those who do financial charities. So when they do volunteering for work, and now it is study proven, somebody might say, no, is there any proof? Yes, there is a proof available. And they people, those who do financial charities, those who come for volunteer working, they have been found to be happier. The third thing which they saw in this 5-point trait was, you need to be industrious. So what does that mean? What is being industrious? Organized, innovative, hardworking. Yes, because happiness has to be earned. It will not come on the platter like that. It has to be earned. So you need to work for it. We need to work for it, and at the same time, we need to have inner self motivation. We need to. Yogananda said, if you make yourself that you are going to be happy all the time, nothing in this universe can make you unhappy. Very simple, absolutely clear. And whereas if you see the other side, if you feel that you're going to be unhappy, nobody can make you happy. And this sometimes you see with young children, when they are stamping their foot on the floor, and you sometimes tell them, no, I can do this for you, that, and they are not bothered, and they are just saying, I want this, and they are unhappy, crying, this, rolling on the ground. And this sometimes happens with us also. We may not be rolling on the ground, but we are rolling in our minds. Oh, what is this? So you see, we have to work for it. Happiness is the greatest gift. It's a soul nature, but it will not come to us like that. We have to work for it. And they found that those who are self-motivated people have found that, as you said, even if the task is boring, but you are doing it because you know that after the completion you will get joy. You said it in the beginning, that it's this feeling of accomplishment which comes after painstaking hard work. And what was the fourth thing in the studies? Gratitude. And I read this story of counting the blessings in my school days, but I forgot to count my blessings after that. And they say that if you just maintain a diary, start your day by thinking and writing about one small thing for which you are thankful to God. Just do that. And the researchers also found that there will be days when you will not feel like doing it, and those are the times that you need to do it with greater tempo and zeal, because that is the time we need it. And because if you will think a little bit about it, you will be having n number of things to be thankful about. Gratitude. And also there was this fifth thing, which was optimism, because it was like seeing always the positive side, that yes, there is going to be something better. Something is always better for us in future. Looking always at the positive side. And they said, even if you feel down and out, just take a break, relax in your chair, and think about the best you, which you imagine yourself to be. Maybe you are not at that stage now, but just imagine.
Half bottle empty and half filled.
You may say that, but then visualizing yourself, you are actually utilizing the power of imagination to see yourself as perfect in someday in the future. That you will be taking care of all the obstacles which are going to come in your way, and you are imagining yourself that you will be the perfect being somewhere down the line. And even that brings you happiness in that moment. It is a very simple exercise which can be done, because you are affirming, as Swami said, as Gaurav said in the beginning, never identify with any weakness that you have now, because you are not that. You are a soul which is ever perfect. So you are actually affirming that part in yourself when you see yourself that way. And so there was one more thing which I am forgetting, but I'll give you in the emails. But one very simple and easy thing I want to give you, which can keep us happy all the time. So you want an easy solution? We all like easy solutions. What is that? So by the time I rub, think about it. what can be the easy solution? Yes? One easy we have already discussed, Dharana, which was like smiling, but there are many more. But another easy solution, which now research is saying that it works, is what? That mix with happy people. You know, researchers found very interesting thing that happiness grows in clusters. You know, when we happiness has a magnetism. You know, when one person is happy, it it is like lighting the lamp in the other. And people have found that even if you have one friend who is always happy, even if he's within 1 mile distance, there is a 50% chance that you will also be happy. Now, this was what research is saying, but I would say experience it. If you are going through difficult challenge periodically, try to associate with people those who are habitually happy. They will keep you up. And you know, many times in India, what happens is that when you are sad, actually you listen to sad songs. And फिर हम मुकेश के गाने सुनने शुरू कर देते हैं. तो वो नहीं करना है कि भाई मुकेश को नहीं सुनना है. And you know, you because it's a pattern. You get into because it is the other side is equally true. Just like happiness grows in clusters, unhappiness also grows in clusters, because when you are unhappy, you have an unhappy friend with you, and this is then the unhappiness, you know, both are drowning in the unhappiness, so that doesn't work. So ultimately, if you want an easy solution, you know, this is the easiest, that come around, mix with happy people. It is not difficult. Just you know, just look around, you will get some. And now people are actually because I touched this subject of social media, and you know, there was an interesting study which they published, which was about the social media thing, you know, WhatsApp, Facebook. And there was an interesting study which they said that if you have more friends, that is okay. I mean, having more friends, but you know what matters is that how sincere we are in our friendships. You know, sometimes they found that people those who spend too much time on Facebook and WhatsApp media, they are actually more depressed, because, and it is a scientifically proven study now, because what happens is that you start comparing. Oh, my friend actually is having a very big car, you know, I should also have someday. So you see, outer toys, which Gaurav was talking about, big house, and any, you know, somebody would be having a more beautiful wife than you, or a better husband than you. I mean, those things can always be there, and you start comparing, and that puts you down, and that is why they found that people were found to be more depressed when they are not sincere in there. And that is why they could say that, okay, be very moderate in your social media circles. Even if you have few friends, be very sincere with them. Sincerity and honesty in friendship will give you the same results, even if you have few friends. So number is not important, but if you will see that even if 1 or 2 friends are there, you know, who can uplift you, it's just like a God's gift. I can tell you that having.
We forget the smile also for many days.
Yes.
So then we
Yeah, because this is because our brain works on the principle of mirrors. Now, very interestingly, science caught up with this thing, that you know, whatever we see, there is something in our brain which tries to mimic that. So if you see habitually unhappy people, you are actually mimicking their expressions. But when you see habitually smiling people, you know, your brain unknowingly picks up that. So that is how the mirror imaging concept has come in the science. So that is why we forget smiling. He is very right that we forget smiling, because for days together in offices we don't see somebody smiling. When I went to medical college in Pune, because I came from Ambala, and one of my professor, he said me, "Oh, you are very happy about today." I said, "But sir, I don't see any reason to be unhappy also." and then he said, Oh, then he said yes, yes, and then he also started laughing, and he said, oh, because he was trying to maybe see that why I'm so happy on that day. But you see, happiness can become a habit for you, because this is how the brain picks up. But I'm really sorry, Jayaji, that I have taken.
That's okay. That's okay. I think rather than starting a new pack,
Yeah.
which Sadhu Devi would be next, let's finish off one and with questions and discussion,
Right.
and then we'll start in the afternoon. Then we'll start fresh.
Start afresh.
Yeah,
Yes,
start
that
afresh.
would be better.
So,
So I think I'm going to also, you can come.
or Gaurav, did you finish?
I didn't, but I think
You could start discussion.
okay.
Or you could, what came to my mind is that when you were these happy faces, I was thinking, that's the discourse we give when we try to promote satsang. It's the same principles as we talk about in the, in the spiritual sense. We talk about how satsang's so important because Yogananda used to say that environment is stronger than willpower. And and we all know this if we look at our lives, so you put yourself in an environment that you choose, and the wise person is he who chooses his environment correctly and wisely. So oftentimes we just can't do these things. I mean, or more likely, I don't feel like doing it. I know many a times, wake up in the morning, I just don't feel positive. And there's that temptation to pull you. What do you do? What's the solution? You can try to do all these things for yourself, but put yourself next to a positive person or in a positive environment. Go to work, and you at least it's usually neutral. And anyway, get yourself out of that environment and choose your environment, and because we will be influenced. We like to say that nothing influences me, but we're foolish if we really believe that, because until we attain mastery, we are influenced by our environment. So pick like that whiteboard there. pick that environment, and you'll find that makes a big difference. And if you take that principle, it's not only for being happy. This is for other things in life too. If you want to be good at any task, find people that are good at that task. If you want to meditate, find other people who meditate, and it's more likely that you're going to be successful in your meditation. Anything associate with that which you want to become, and that's a big, big secret. I mean, you're halfway there if you're just taking that and pick your environments wisely, and you will end up. It'll rub off on you. It's like they used to use. Ramakrishna used to say, if you peel onions, your hands will smell of onions. And so it's the same thing with us in the spiritual sense or in the happiness sense. So think about that.
I have a question. Is lunch waiting for us?
No, what time is
What
lunch?
time
I think lunch is at 1 o'clock or 1:30. Okay. So let's open it up. Let's again open it up, and again here any of us can answer these questions. Let's open it up to some questions. Then we'll pick up fresh in the afternoon. So who has a question? I don't really need that.
Habits and all those things. So we listen.
We read many times about dairy foods also. It is not good for health.
Yeah.
So, but we have taken that as a balanced diet.
Right.
So,
Yes.
how we can?
Yeah, that is another thing which is some there is because a lot of understandings, varied understandings are there in the scientific community, but the thing is that if you see, and that is why we need somebody who can guide us from the point of wisdom, and that is why I would also have been lost in this, because every day you see one article and the other day you see the other article which is exactly opposite of the previous day's article, and because nothing is coming from the point of wisdom, and that is why when we listen to Yogananda and when we read his books on health, I would recommend his book which was recently compiled up. It was his wisdom about the health, and the book is titled for how to achieve glowing health and vitality. So it's a very small book, and it's a collection of all which master has written, which we should include in our diet, how much it should be included, and what is good, whether dairy is good or not, whether poultry is good or not, and whether we should be vegetarian, whether we should not be vegetarian. So you see all these questions, and I would highly recommend that if somebody has a question about the diet, that is the book you should always have in your closets. So, but yes, your question was that dairy is good. That is why master is saying that if you see now, many studies now are saying that why our bones are brittle is because we are not taking enough calcium. And if you see calcium source in the food, if you see main source of calcium in the food is only the dairy products, the milk, and also the poultry. And especially for women, those who are beyond 60 years old, when the bones are getting, master said that a glass of milk every day, but then he also said yogurt, at least a cup of yogurt every day, and also poultry you can once, twice, or three times in a week. But then this is important, so there is no ambiguity about it. Milk is important, unless somebody is allergic to milk, that's a separate story.
But the quality of milk.
Yes.
In our city, so that is not so good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the thing is that maybe we can have now, people are also talking about the soya milk, which is obtained from plant sources. So one can try that, and but I'm that is why Yogananda was, because you see we are in a very difficult age as far as purity, quality, and these stuff is concerned, because people have their vested interest. So that is why if you see, Yogananda did say that the time has come to band together and make spiritual communities, because where we can grow our own food, where we can have our own cows, where we can have our own goats, and we can nurture them, and we can have good quality stuff for ourselves. You see, government is not going to do about it. Nobody can do. We have to do it. And that is why this Dwapara age is all about bringing like-minded people, banding together and working for it. Because we have a problem, we have to seek a solution also. But until then, we have to take whatever is available.
Bacteria and that bacteria. Now, I can understand the yogurt or dahi can
Yes.
give you good
Yeah.
bacteria,
Yes.
or but how the other food is giving you the good bacteria, like fruits.
Fruits.
Are you? There are no bacteria in the fruit as such.
See,
or
Yeah.
any, I mean, like poultry.
Uh-huh.
There are no bacteria, but how that helps to get more bacteria in your
Yeah.
gut.
So see, one is that bacteria are everywhere. It's not that plants and vegetables, even on our skin, we have a lot of healthy bacteria on our skin. You cannot see them, but if you see under the microscope, there are millions and millions of bacteria which we are inhaling through the air. Just we can't see them doesn't mean that bacteria are actually everywhere. And this battle between friendly, now somebody can say that swine flu bacteria, a virus, is is not it is also everywhere. I work in an ICU, and I see these patients in and out. Swine flu patients, some of them are on ventilator, and I have not even taken a vaccine for that. But then it's all because master said that when you are overly conscious about the negative things, they start affecting you. But when you are in the other consciousness, when you don't even pay attention to negativity around yourselves, it loses the power to affect you. But as far as your question goes, where the bacteria, so one is that these things also have bacteria, that is one. Secondly, I was talking about the food for bacteria. So what food the friendly bacteria like? So they like vegetables, they like fruits, they like dairy, and they like fermented foods like yogurt. So what, when you feed whatever they like, their numbers grow. So if their numbers, if they outnumber the enemy ones, naturally they are going to give you protection.
I am a little bit of an introvert and I don't really open up to people easily. And I don't know, since childhood I've had this sort of belief that I'm a very do-it-myself kind of person and that I don't really need people around me to help me or affect the way or influence the way I'm feeling or doing things. But there are times when
I'm stuck with something, or I'm just wallowing in my own sadness and misery, and I constantly keep denying to myself that I need people around me. You brought up the concept of surrounding yourself with people who are happy. So I would just like some perspective on that. What do you think about it? How, to what extent are people responsible for affecting your mental state?
Jayaji can start. I have something. Yes.
I was mentioning that at first because that's an observation. It's a universal observation that we are affected by our environment. And usually for most people, that environment, particularly our human environment in terms of friends, family, those people.
This is being recorded, so it is not for them. So
Oh.
we are recording it. So
Do I hold this here?
So
Oh, Oops. Okay.
How much people affect us.
Yes, we can see. But people are of different dispositions. Some people are very a private person, and some people are a very social person. And you're going to have to interpret that in your own way, but you will find yourself at times, if a person does not have much social contact and they find themselves in a state of sadness, perhaps, or depression. A good cure is to just find other people. It doesn't have to be lots of people, even one person who has a friend, somebody who has influence on you. You'll begin to take on that. It's a principle of magnetism. We each of us have a certain magnetic quality to us, and we tend to attract to ourselves things that are in resonance with that magnetism, and we pull to it. But we can use that principle by putting ourselves next to another person who is magnetic in a different way than us. And just like a physical magnet, if you take a bar of steel or iron and it has no magnetism, and you put it next to a very strong magnet, just the proximity of being in the presence of that other magnet will magnetize the first bar, even though that first bar didn't do anything. It just sat there, absorbing the magnetism around it. And now all of us, to some extent, are doing that all the time. We're in a magnetic environment. Why do we go? We go into the country, nice, beautiful greenery here. Has a certain magnetism which we begin to attract to ourselves. Cities have other magnetisms. So you can use this principle to your benefit by associating with those. Now people, I say people, but it doesn't have to be people. There's environments, but people have a stronger magnetism usually than an environment. So you put yourself in association with that magnetism you want to pick up. I mentioned earlier, if you want to be an artist, you should probably associate with people that are artists or have artistic temperament. And all of a sudden, you start having creative ideas of one sort or another. Musicians tend to attract to other musicians, mathematicians to mathematicians, engineers, computer nerds associate with other computer nerds. And
They can tune with each other.
they get in tune with each other. They resonate on the same wavelength. They understand each other. They can talk to each other. My daughter works in a job where she is a middle person between. One of her jobs has been in her companies. She says there are the artists, and then there are the computer engineers. And he says they cannot talk to each other. So she happens to have the facility to be able to talk both languages. And so her job, really, was her job, was to bring those two together so that they could accomplish a project. And because they couldn't talk to one another. So, but this principle of association, and the association also is more subtle than just putting yourself physically. You can psychically put yourself in attunement with something. Think of the books that you read. That's an environment. You're attracted to certain certain books. The music that you listen to has vibration. It puts you into a certain mood. The physical environment. Why you could say, when we were joking a little earlier about being orderly in our circle. Some people habitually live in messy circumstances, and their minds are not very orderly, and it reflects outwardly. But you can change that by consciously becoming orderly outwardly, and soon you begin to take on that as well. You take on those qualities. So this is really it's a principle of magnetism. And what you might, all of us want to ask this question about ourselves: what is my magnetism? What am I resonating? What am I attracting? So we were sort of getting into that a little bit the other night. What are we attracting? Why? We have magnetism, and there's our karma. We bring karma from the past, but we have to remember that everything can be changed for the better if we do the right actions now, because we are setting the stage for the future by what we do now. But we have a certain magnetism, and it's a whole science of how to change our individual magnetism. How can a happy person the other way. How can a sad person become a happy person? Yeah, there's a magnetism there. Habits, attitudes, ways of behaving, but there are also physical things too. Diet, the clothes you wear, friends you keep, all of these things. You can make conscious choices of changing that if you choose to. But you have to recognize your own magnetism now, and then what do you want to become for the future, and you can change yourself. So I think I can't remember where we started this conversation, but she can finish.
Very often, just the effort or the determination to change and put yourself in a situation where you can be with other people, to have satsang, just that alone very often will start the ball rolling in the right direction. And you may not notice it, of course, at first, but it's happening because you've made that decision in your mind. Whoops. Yeah. Because you've made that decision in your mind, and it starts things.
The decision begins to attract a result.
Okay, now let's see.
One more thing, I've found with that, that being, we are introverts, some of us are extroverts, whatever that might be. But I've found, again, mixing with other people, like, they were saying, especially who have some quality that we ourselves wish to imbibe, Sometimes it's not, unless we are, like Jay was saying, if we are perfected, we are happy all the time, which is what we're trying to do, then we don't need to bother about this. But if we are on our way there, Yogananda used to say, take every help you can. And it's not a sign of weakness. Instead, it's a sign of knowing what your true goal is and how do you get to it very quickly. So taking help from others, but also, I think that when we put ourselves in association with other people, what it also does is it prevents us from becoming too self-involved, which we may not consciously think of it that way. Our reasoning might be that, I want to be, I don't want to mix because, I'm happy, and, I'm happy for others. I'm happy for, what everyone is doing, but, I'd like to be in my own space. That is fine for some times, but too often, if you are not very careful, it can lead to self-preoccupation, which they say is the starting point of all our other challenges. And that's why we were talking about service a little earlier, that serving others, what really happens when we are serving others is not that they are being benefited. What is truly happening is that we are forgetting our little self with all its preoccupations, with its problems, with its, and this is what, I've seen it again and again, that whenever in town, we have a book study sometimes on Fridays, we have a book study. Whenever I go to that book study, I usually have to share there, like we are sharing this weekend. I have a very good day. the next day after the book study. And I've started noticing this trend. The same thing whenever I am forced to kind of share, in a public setting like this, speaking on the things that I myself am having to work upon. It's helpful. Not for the people. I hope all of you are getting benefited, but it's us who, by repeating the things we have to hear ourselves enough, get that opportunity. So I think it's also, if you look at it from that point, that putting ourselves in touch, association with people helps us also get beyond ourselves, and that consciousness which is, kind of always by default, that's our default mode to slip back into. But when we open ourselves up, it's things change there. It can be helpful.
So Gaurav, now what's our schedule from here, and what's next?
Does anyone have a schedule? Printed one right now? Because I know there is lunch now.
Yeah, no, it's a lunch time.
But then we have something in the afternoon before the afternoon class.
Ashram tour.
Ashram tour.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 to
Or
3
free
o'clock,
hour.
free time of 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
2 to 3. 2 to 3. Okay.
So it's the ashram tour.
2 o'clock.
And who does that? Or Darna, you doing that?
I have no plans to, but
One of us will do it, I think.
Somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
somebody's going to do it.
And we'll start right after lunch at the dining area at 2 o'clock.
And then we reconvene here at what time?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay. And is Pranya going to join us this afternoon?
Yes.
Good.
So
Okay.
3 we will go, I think, till 5 o'clock. Then we'll have one of our yoga teachers come. We'll have another experiential session from 5 to 7.
Yes. And that's, of course, now we always tell people, you don't, if you're tired and that's too much and you don't need to come, and I said, you think, oh my God, 2 hours of yoga and all of that, that's going to be too much. You just come for a little bit. Or don't come at all if you really, but I would recommend you at least come for a little bit. And
So 5 o'clock is the yoga?
that'll be about 5 o'clock.
Yeah. And 4:30 there's a
Right
chai
here.
break.
Well, I think this afternoon we're doing the yoga here. I think.
Yes. Maybe. Yeah.
If it doesn't get too hot, I think we'll probably do it here.
One more thing which we had shared as part of the program is if any of you want one-on-one time, as might be the case sometimes, we have particular challenges we want to go a little in depth with it. So Jay and Sadhaji are available. You can catch hold of them. Sometimes during these breaks, you can just have a one-on-one chat with them regarding any issues that you might want to discuss. Okay.
Lunchtime?
Yes. Let's go down
Or-
for lunch.
What time, actually, are they serving now?
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. We should have probably stopped. Let's have a 5-minute meditation before we quit, and then go. So you can leave, okay? Just collect ourselves from what we've done this morning, and then go forward.
Just sit up straight. Let's keep our spine straight now. Away from the back of the chair. Open your chest. Keep your hands on your thighs, or at the point between the abdomen and the thigh. Let's just 2 times tense the whole body and then relax it, inhaling and then exhaling. Let's tense the body, vibrate and relax. Once more, tense and relax. Now just make sure your body's relaxed. Your gaze is uplifted, gently, without strain. And simply observe the breath. As it comes in and out. Watch the breath. Do not control it. breath for a few moments. Gaze deeply at that point between the eyebrows. Enjoying this rest.